Good morning, dear students. Expecting you are fine by the grace of Almighty. I am also fine, dear students. Actually, I am repeating the same thing. I miss you every day. I miss you always. Today, I just want to focus on Unit 4, Lesson 3. And this is the last lesson of this unit. And this lesson is based on a story, that is photograph. You know the word photograph, that means photo or photograph. That means through this story, you will be able to know the relationship between a grandson and a grandmother. Not only that, the recollection of the past of an old woman. And through the recollection, sometimes you can sometime think about the recollection of an old woman or old man, all happenings, all things that happened throughout his or her life. So at first, let us see a photograph. Just think, here you can see the photograph. You can see a little boy and a very old woman are very busy with observing something. That means they are very close to watch something very minutely and very attentively. Through this picture, you can easily just think about or you can just read the picture. That means a grandmother is very busy with making our grandson understand about something. If you imagine that it is a picture, of course, or it is a photograph, that means the grandmother is explaining about the photograph. And if we want to go through the text, we can easily understand about the story. But before going to the passage, of course, I will ask you to just think about something or imagine something, but just try to imagine something observing the photograph. Just look into the photograph very closely and you may find something and you can create a story inside yourself. That means the relationship between a grandson and a grandmother. And through this, I think you will be able to know about the relationship. Not only that, and there are many events happened in our everyday life, and you know the relationship and the recollection, and sometimes we recollect our past and we become very imaginative thinking about our past happenings. Sometimes that happenings make us sorrow or joy in this way. And if we go through the text, we can see that the text actually started with first person, that means I. That means you can think that the story is a first person narrative style, that is narrative style based on first person. The speaker himself, the first person, I was 10 years old. The speaker, that means a little boy, is saying in this way, I was 10 years old. My grandmother sat on a starring bed under the mango tree. Just imagine these things happens during summer season in our villages. It is a very common thing. It is a very common thing when the weather is very hot at the time. The people try to take a rest under the trees and sitting on a starring bed. It is a common scenario in our villages. So here the speaker says in this way that his grandmother just sitting under a mango tree on a starring bed. And it was late summer and there were sunflowers in the garden and a warm wind in the trees. That means it is a common setting. Just think, that means it is late summer, and at the time the surroundings is very beautiful, and the weather was just like warm weather, and they are getting a flow of the wind. And my grandmother was knitting a woolen scarf for the winter months. And it is a very long tradition in our country also that before winter, or when winter comes, they are very ready before that, and they need some woolen scarf so that they get warm thing in the winter season. She was very old, dressed in a plain white sari. Her eyes were not very strong now, but her fingers moved quickly with the needles. That means it indicates the age of the grandmother. That means the grandmother is really an aged woman, and her eyes are not strong, but habitually she is very expert in knitting anything and using of needles. And the needles kept clicking all afternoon. That means it is going on every day till noon, till afternoon, till evening. And grandmother had white hair, but there were very few wrinkles on her skin. That means when we grow up and when we become old, our skin sometimes we feel that means our spill wrinkles, and this our hair will turn into white. And I had come home after playing cricket on the Maidan. The little boys, little girls in our country, in many countries, they just spend their time and in afternoon in the Maidan or playground. I had taken my meal, and now I was rummaging in a box of old books. Rummaging indicates something, looking into something or searching something very hurriedly and very attentively. That means here the boy was rummaging in an old box of old books, and it is the curiosity of the children to find out something. If they find anything just thrown aside, whether it is a box or book or anything else, so that they can get something as toys and family heirlooms that had just that day been brought out of the attic by my mother. That means here, attic, that means a room upper the staircase, that is called attic. And here his mother just kept something on the attic, and the boy very curiously just finding something so that he can get some toys here. Nothing in the box interested me very much except for a book with colorful pictures of birds and butterflies. That means the boy is very interested with some colorful things. It is the common nature of children. If they find something else which are very costly, but they will not take it, but they are very interested to something which is very colorful. So the pictures of birds and butterflies attract him very much. I was going through the book, looking at the pictures, when I found a small photograph between the pages. That means after rummaging something into the book, he suddenly found a photograph between the pages of a book. It was a faded picture, a little yellow foggy. That means the picture taken long before, so the picture became faded, and it was a picture of a girl standing against a wall, and the wall there was nothing but sky. That means the setting of the photograph. The setting of the photograph here is told, and that photograph was taken in such a place behind the wall, just in front of the wall, and there is nothing seen in the picture, but only the sky is seen here. That means the picture became very old and faded. For that reason, only the picture of that girl and the sky and the wall is seen here. But from the other side, a pair of hands reached up as though someone was going to climb up. That means in the picture, a pair of hands, that means two hands are seen here. That means the scene in a position, that means that very man is trying to climb up the wall. In that way, the picture was taken. There were flowers growing near the girl, but couldn't tell what they were. There was a creeper too, but it was just a creeper. That means the area of the photograph, that means they found some little plants around the ground, and it was just a creeper. I ran out into the garden. Granny means grandmother. I ran out in the garden and I shouted, "Look at the picture. I found it in the box of the old things. Whose picture is it?" That means the boy is very curious. The boy is very curious to know whose picture is this. That means the picture is of a little girl, and he is very interested to know whose picture belongs to. I jumped on the bed beside my mother, and he walloped me on the bottom and said, "Now I have lost count of my kisses." That means suddenly the boy shouted to his grandmother to know about the picture, and for that reason the grandmother suddenly became very astonished, and at the time she just lost to count the stitches. And the next time you do that, I will make you finish the scarf yourself. Angrily, the grandmother just told these things, that if you do these things, of course you have to do this yourself, and you have to make the scarf yourself if you do it again. She took the photograph from my hand, and we both stared at it for a long time. That means, after observing the photograph, the grandmother easily understood about the photograph, but he and the boy stared at, that means looked the photograph very closely, very minutely, and thus tried to find out about the picture and the history of the picture. She took the photograph from my hand, and both stared at for a long time. The girl had long loose hair, and she wore a long dress and nearly covered her ankles and sleeves and reached her wrist. That is the description of the photograph of the little girl. That means the little girl wore a long dress, and of course with full sleeves, and the dress reached to her ankles and to the wrist. And then there were a lot of bangles on her hands. That means a lot of bangles or bracelets on the hand of the girl. And but despite all this drapery, the girl appeared to be full of freedom and movement. That means the girl was wrapped with dresses and other ornaments, but the girl looked very independent and very girl of freedom. That means she looks very what would I say, very independent girl, and outspoken and very extrovert type. Through the picture it is seen. She stood with her legs apart and her hands on her hips, and she had a wide, almost devilish smile on her face. That means through the description, we can see that the girl just was very what should I say, just naughty girl, and her smile was devilish smile. And the description of the taking photograph of the girl, it is the common style of taking photographs of little girl. They just put their hands on their hips. In this way, they just they take photographs. Whose picture is it? I asked. Little girls, of course. Here, the boy is very interested to know about the picture. Whose picture is it? And the grandmother just answered in this way: a little girl's photograph. Can't you tell? Can't you tell? Yes. But did you know the girl? Yes, I know, he knew her. That means the boy is very interested to know about the girl. The grandmother just assured him that yes, he knew the girl, but I should not tell you about her. That means the grandmother easily understood about the picture, but she refused to describe the picture to the boy or to her grandson. But I will tell you about the photograph. That means there is a recollection, nostalgic something. That means the grandmother becomes very nostalgic after just getting the photograph, and for that reason here the grandmother just tells in this way: there is a history, there is something she wants to tell, because actually a photograph is not merely a photograph, but a photograph just bears a history, bears some memories. And when you see your photographs of your past life, of course you can get a story behind the photograph. That means the grandmother just described in this way. Of course she could tell many things about the photograph. And here it was taken in your grandfather's house about 60 years ago. That means the photograph is about 60 years ago, and that is the garden wall, and over the wall there was a road going to the town. That means the grandmother is describing about the photograph. And you can recall many things. You can recall many things if you see any photograph of your life that was taken before 20 years before, 10 years, not 20 years because you are not 20 years old, 10 years before, or 5 years before. You can recall something after observing the photograph. You can just recall about the happenings behind taking the photographs. You can recall many things after observing the photograph, after just seeing the picture. You can recall here. And whose hands are they? I asked. The boy was very obstinate, and repeatedly he wanted to know about the detail of the photograph. For that reason, the boy actually minutely observed the photograph, and he found the hands of some bodies in that photograph. For that reason, that boy inquired of the hands. Whose hands? I asked. Coming up from the other side, grandmother squinted and looked closely at the picture. That means grandmother very minutely looked closely at the picture and shook her head. It is for the first time I have noticed. That means actually the grandmother did never notice about the hands, but she could easily understood about the hands. That must have been the sweeper boys, or maybe they were your grandfathers. That means here very with fun, the grandmother just answered in this way: the hands may be the hands of sweeper boss or your grandfather's hands. They don't like grandfather's hand. I said, his hands are all bony. That means the boy is thinking about the hands. That means the hands in the photographs are not bony, but his grandfather's hands are bony. For that reason, he failed to culminate, he failed to connect with these two hands because the boy was not young enough, was not old enough. Yes, but this was 60 years ago. But this was 60 years ago. In this way, the grandmother just describing the photographs, here the grandmother just telling, that means the photograph was taken 60 years ago, and for that reason, at that time, the grandfather's hand was not bony. Right now, the hands of grandfathers are bony. Didn't he climb up at least? I don't remember, and you remember well, Granny. And here the boy asked his grandmother whether the very man could climb up or not, and grandmother just told she failed to remember. Yes, I remember. I remember what is not in the photograph. That means there are many things behind a photograph, and in a photograph only that very man could recall, only that very man can recall the happenings or events behind taking the photograph. For that reason, the grandmother just expressing in this way, there are many things behind the photograph which are not seen in the photograph. It was a spring day and there was a cool breeze blowing, nothing like this. That means here the grandmother is describing the situation of that time when the photograph was taken. Those flowers are the girl's feet. They were marigolds, and the bougainvillea creeper, it was a mass of purple. That means here the grandmother recollected the situation, recollected the location or the area or the settings of that time when the photograph was taken. And if you could, as nowadays, you wouldn't be able to smell the flowers or feel the breeze. Yes, actually, you cannot get the smell of any flower taken in a photograph, but you can feel if you recall the photograph that was taken in your life. I need not to actually, there are many students right now here. I can see the name of some students present. Very good. If I just ask your name, I can see many of the students are here. Sumaya Khatun, Sabara Khatun, Sabrin, Mahmuda, Shohana Khan, and Cynthia, Ismat, Rafan Dola, Sumaya Khatun, Afrin Shati, Kamrun Nisa Kanta, Tilottama, Al Sadi, Nafisa Shamin, Farhana, Shani Orti, Junaid Ahmed, Orpita. Okay, there are many students I can see, the name of many students at this time. And here, excuse me, here we can see that it was a spring day, and then you know, in that photograph easily the grandmother could recollect all these things and remember all these things that was happened in that time. And you know, and here the boy again asked, and what about the girl? Tell me about the girl. That means the boy is very interested to know about the girl. The boy is very interested to know about the girl. Well, she was a wicked girl, said Granny. That means Granny is describing about the girl as wicked girl. You don't know the trouble that they had getting her into those fine clothes she wearing. Who was the girl? Again and again the boy is very obstinate to know about the girl. I said, you must tell who she was. The boy is very obstinately and very obdurate to know about the girl. No, that wouldn't do, said grandmother. But I pretended I didn't know.
I knew, because grandmother still smiled in the same way. That means the boy could easily realize about the picture, and the boy knew it very well whose picture that was. And that was the picture of his grandmother. He knew it very well because he could easily similarize about the smile between these two things. That means his grandmother's smile and the smile of that very little girl. Even though she didn't have as many teeth. Come on, Granny, I said, tell me, but grandmother shook her hand and carried on with knitting. The grandmother actually didn't want to say that the picture belongs to herself. But the boy could easily understood about the picture and held the photograph in my hand, looking from it to my grandmother and back again, and trying to find points in common between the old lady and the little pigtailed girl. A lemon-colored butterfly settled on the end of the grandmother's knitting needle and stayed there while the needles clicked away. That means here the situation, that means at the very afternoon, the situation was like that. That means here you can see, you can see that here, dear students, a lemon-colored butterfly settled on the end of the grandmother's knitting needle. It is very significant. That means the significant of the late afternoon. At the time, the butterfly is just flying, and all the situation is like sometimes very romantic situation, and the time was very pleasant, and they are getting a very mind-blowing wind. I made a grab at the butterfly and it flew off it, a deeply fright, and settled on the sunflower. The boy is trying to grab the butterfly but failed. I wonder whose hands they were, whispered grandmother to herself with her head bowed and her needles clicking away in the soft warm silence of that summer afternoon. That means the grandmother whispered in this way, whose hands belongs to her. They were. That means the grandmother knew it very well, but he remembered 60 years back, and she became very nostalgic after observing, after seeing the picture. Just see the photograph, see the slide, my dear students. If you can imagine the story, I think you can similarize with the picture. A staring bed, an old woman, very thinking mood, and trying to recollect something through the picture. You can easily guess. Here, there is a quotation. Old age is just a record of one's whole life. Old age is just a record of one's whole life. That means in old age, you can easily recall a pile of memories of your life. That means of the past events. And when a people become old, at that time he or she becomes very nostalgic. And being nostalgic, easily just remember a pile of memories. She could easily, or he could easily just think about the pile of memories. And in this way, you can just make a story after observing the photograph. You can easily make a story inside yourself. And right now, if I ask you to answer some questions, my dear students, just look at the picture very closely. I think after finishing the story, you can easily understand. If you feel the picture very closely, it will be very helpful for you to guess or to understand, to realize the story. That means in old days, when a man or woman becomes old, at the time a pile of memories behind him or behind her, and at that time she or he just recollects his or her memory in this way. So this picture tells everything about the story. So let me practice some questions from this passage. Let us practice some questions from this passage. If we just practice some MCQ from this passage, it is sample questions, and you, as usual, you will be able to answer the questions. I will give you some questions and I will expect the correct answer from you. And the first question is the meaning of the word worm. The meaning is the word worm. What is the exact meaning just used in the passage? What should be the answer? Try to think about the answer. Try to think about the answer. What should be the exact meaning of here, the worm? I am expecting answer from you, my dear students. I am ready to get the answer from you. Answer B. Dear students, I told you the last class, please try to answer the answer in full. Don't write A, B, C, D. Yes, what? Abdul, correct. Jannatara Shurmi, correct. Sumaya D. Don't write down B, C, D in this way. Try to write down in full. Otherwise, I fail to communicate. Make it slow. Don't write A, B, C, D. Anarul Islam, what? Yes. Anisha Tasnim, what? Those who are writing A, B, C, D, I'm sorry to recall I am sorry to call their name. Reshma, what? Okay, Pia, answer correct, what? Yes. Tasfiya Tabassum, correct. Mahmuda Moni, correct. Joita Sen, answer corso B. Tasfiya Tabassum, what? Yes, correct. Rehena, correct. Nob, answer correct. The correct answer is what? Okay, let me see the next question. Yes, the correct answer, I also think what? Yes, your answer is right. The answer is what? So let me see the next question. Question number 2. The word wrinkle means what should be the right answer? Try to guess and try to answer the question and write down the answer in full. Don't write down A, B, C, D in this way. Try to answer the writing the full with spelling. Smooth, iron, straining, and furrow. Which one should be the correct answer? Smooth, straighten, furrow. What should be the correct answer? Let me see. Abdur, furrow. Anandanam, furrow. Yes, then Rosina Ryan, you are again doing the same thing. You are answering like down A, B, C, D in this way. Don't write down A, B, C, D, answer full. Okay, correct. Sumaya Khatun, correct. Reshma, correct. Rehena, correct. Priyanka, yes, correct. Tamun Rahar, correct. Joita Sen, correct. Fahmida, correct. Rahiza, correct. Habiba, correct. Asifa, yes, correct. Rosana, correct. Orpita, correct answer. Eva, correct. Rafat, correct answer. Sifat, Shaznin Pia, correct. Tasmiya, Rida. Don't write down anything in your comment box except your class, okay? Except class oriented comment. Class oriented comments are expected. Don't try to write down anything. Please don't write anything into your comment box that are not expected. So try to communicate with the class, try to be in the class and comment what your teacher is just expecting from you. Tanisha, correct. Tanjuma Zaman Nova. I can't see your answer. You just post some picture. Anarul Islam, correct. So dear student, let me see the next question. And before going to the next question, I want to tell you one thing again. When your class will go on, don't try to write down anything which is not expected in your comment box. You should not write down any irrelevant thing. And the correct answer is Pharaoh. Yes, you are right. You are right. Your answer is correct. The right answer is Pharaoh. And the next one. Be ready. Heirlooms means, what do you mean by heirlooms? Worthless, expired, valuable objects that have belonged to the same family for many years. Valueless, valuable objects. Which one should be the correct answer? Let me read out again. Worthless experience, yellow means worthless experience. Number B, valuable objects that belong to the same family for many years. The answer may be long to write down. So right now you can answer in this way A, B, C, D. Right now I will accept your answer if you answer A, B, C, D in this way. Valueless and valuable. Which one should be the correct answer? So let me check it out. Which one should be the right answer? What do you mean by heirloom? Anunanam D. Abdul. Try to write the answer full. D, B. Somaya Khatun, B. Rahul Agarwala, B. Rahana, B. Priyanka, B. Anisha, D. Rafat, D. Fahmida, Sharmin, Kamrun Nessa, Kanta, B. Orpita, B. Habiba Lamia, B. Rehena, B. Very good. Dear students, I can enjoy your presence. I can enjoy your presence, and I think all of you are present here. Let me see the right answer. Let us see the right answer. The right answer is valuable objects that belong to the same family for many years. So the correct answer is valuable objects that have belonged to the same family for many years. This is the correct answer. So let us see the next one. The word devilish refers to what? Answer option A, angelic. Option B, spiritual. Option C, sinister. Option D, naughty. Let me ask the question again. The word devilish refers to angelic. Option B, spiritual. Option C, sinister. And option D, naughty. Which one should be the correct answer? So try to write down the answer in full. Try to write down answer the full. Don't write down A, B, C, D. Try to write down the answer in full. Which one should be the correct answer? Mahmuda Moni, naughty. She wrote naughty. Abidur, naughty. Arnav, Fahmida, Rafat Rejwan. Your answer made me confused. All of you answered naughty. All of you answered naughty. Dear students, when you are asked to choose the best option, of course your answer should be very contextual. Tasfiya tabassum, sinister. I think this answer should be the right one. This answer should be the right one. All of you, most of all of you just wrote naughty. Yes, you can similarize with the word as naughty, but if you think about the passage, if you want to find out the contextual meaning, I think you should write down the word sinister. Okay, let me see the next question. And the answer should be yes, the answer should be sinister. And I told you before, you can similarize between these two words, devilish and naughty. To some extent, they are very, very synonymous. But if you want to get the contextual meaning, of course, you have to find out the word sinister. And then attic refers to what? Attic refers to what? In this time, you are allowed to write down only the option A, B, C or D in this way. You need to answer the full. I will take it as correct one because in this short time it will be very tough to write down all these things. So right now at this moment you can write in this way A, B, C or D. So attic refers to what? Number A, option A, room under staircase is staircase. B, staircase. C, room over staircase. Number D, space just below the roof of a house used for storing things. Space just below the roof of a house used for storing things. Option A, room under staircase. Option B, staircase. Option C, room over staircase. Option D, space just below the roof of a house just for storing things. Which one should be the right answer? So let me see your comment box. Option D, option D, option C, Godhuli, Famida, Tausia. Okay, dear students, let me see the correct one. Which should be the correct option? Sometimes I think a room over staircase, and some of you answered in this way, space just below the roof of a house used for storing things. Do you think that things? What should be the answer? I think this should be room over staircase. Dear students, right now I would like to say you, please, if you are ready, try to write down the questions. Try to write down the questions, and you should prepare your answer. And if we will get any favorable condition, of course we will examine, we will check your answer out, and try to write down the questions so that you can practice in your house. As a homework you can take it and try to answer the questions, and try to write down the questions in your khata. Try to write down the questions. Answer the following questions, and you will get 5 questions in your exam paper, and you have to answer the 5 questions for getting 10 marks. Each question will carry out 2 marks, and for getting 2 marks, of course, you have to write down the answers correctly, and you have to answer all the questions in assertive form, and your answer should not longer than more than 3 sentences. And here the first one is, why do you think the grandmother doesn't tell the boy that she was the little girl in the picture? Again, why do you think the grandmother doesn't tell the boy that she was the little girl in the picture? Number B, how was her posture and gesture in the photograph? How was her posture and gesture in the photograph? Number C, whose hands do you think are those that are seen in the photograph? Whose hands do you think are those that are seen in the photograph? And the extension of the question is, why does the grandmother whisper the question to herself? Why does the grandmother whisper the question to herself? Number D, the girl in the picture was very spirited. The girl in the picture was very spirited. Do you agree? Why? Why not? You have to explain. The girl in the picture was very spirited. Do you agree? Why? Why not? Dear students, before answering the questions, one thing is very important. I want to remind you that is very important. Before answering any question, you have to answer the questions in assertive form. And before writing any question, of course, you have to take the subject and verb and the extension from the question. You have to answer the question taking the information from the passage. And you should not copy anything from the passage. You have to write down the answers in your own, but you have to take the concept from the passage. And by taking the concept from the passage, of course, you have to answer the questions. And don't forget to write down the answers not more than 3 sentences. Your answer should be confined to not more than 3 sentences. Try to don't make it bigger. Don't make it bigger. Try to answer the questions exactly, appropriately. And sometimes you have to explain, sometimes you have to answer shortly. When you are asked to explain the answer, don't try to explain that things in a descriptive way, but try to explain that things in a subtle way. In this way, you have to answer the questions. So prepare your answer in your home, and if we get any favorable time, of course, you will check your answer out. And don't forget to write down the answers as a homework. Okay, dear students. So, my dear students, that's all for today. That's all for today. And dear students, actually, we are not passing a very favorable time. It is true. It is true that we are not passing a very favorable time. We are not getting a congenial atmosphere. It is true. But though we are not getting any congenial atmosphere, we have to think one thing very with rapt attention, what is that, and very attentively, that time is very important, and of course you will be rewarded by your time. If you use your time, of course you will be rewarded, as your expectation, and if you abuse your time, of course you will not get good things in as a reward. So try to use your time properly, and this time is very important for your life, because you are in the transitional period of your life and in your academic life, because after finishing this period, of course you are ready to enter in a higher education, and in that time, of course, you have to prove your worth. For that reason, you have to make yourself fit in this field, and don't forget to learn anything from the root. Of course, you have to learn anything from the root, and you have to learn anything in detail, and for that reason you have to be concentrated to the studies, and you have to take information from many sources. Don't try to get information, because the world is based on information and technology. So try to be informative, try to be knowledgeable, and try to be very attentive to your studies, and get all these things seriously, and try to be serious with your life. Be safe, stay at your home, and stay blessed. Thank you very much, my dear students. Thank you very much.